Robert Knight is our guest here today on Crosstalk, senior writer and correspondent with Coral Ridge Ministries and author of the book Radical Rulers, the White House Elites Who Are Pushing America Towards Socialism. And I understand, Bob, that you've got a special coming up on Coral Ridge Hour pertaining to this whole topic of radical rulers.
Yeah, we've been running a series, actually, and we profile some of these czars that the Obama administration has put into power. And this week's will feature Mark Lloyd on the Coral Ridge Hour, and other material about just how radical our radical rulers are. I think when people voted for Barack Obama in 2008, they had no idea how far left he was and what kind of folks he was surrounding himself with, because the mainstream media ignored it. The Jeremiah Wright episode came and went very quickly.
Yeah.
Even though he was in his church for 20 years, that should have been an ongoing news story. But the media kept Jeremiah Wright out of view as much as possible because they wanted to elect Barack Obama. I mean, it's clear.
Speaking here of Mr. Lloyd, I'm concerned by his diversity statements as well as, he shared his concerns about whites occupying important leadership positions. He said, quote, "There's nothing more difficult than this because we have really, truly good white people in important positions, and the fact of the matter is there are a limited number of those positions, and unless we are conscious of the need to have more people of color, gays, and other people in those positions, we will not change the problem." He continued by saying we're in a position where you have to say who is going to step down so someone else can have power.
Yeah, we're in a position. He's in a position of authority at the FCC. That's really scary for a government official to say, we don't like how these things are being run, and we want to force people out to put our own people in. I mean, and we're going to do it based on race and based on whether someone's a professed homosexual. We'll give them an edge over somebody else who might be a media owner. It's just outrageous.
Now, I understand that he also insists that the fairness doctrine was never repealed. Has made statements to that effect, pushing for a reinstatement. What is this fairness doctrine? Why it is a bad thing?
Well, it was repealed in 1987 during the Reagan administration. It was an FCC policy that said you have to balance viewpoints on commercial radio stations. And now it really killed talk radio before it was repealed because station managers didn't know how much they had to balance, how many people they had to bring on, what kind of records they had to keep. So they just avoided talk radio altogether. They put on cooking shows and other things. And it's different, a little bit different from the equal time provision, and which that was the FCC rule that governs political campaigns. And they were telling TV stations that if you give free airtime to a candidate, you have to give that same number of minutes to another candidate. A lot of people mix the two up, but the fairness doctrine was kind of a vague policy that the Reagan administration looked at in 1987 and said, you know what, we have thousands of radio stations now. There's really no need for this. There's plenty of diversity. We're going to no longer enforce it. And then Congress passed a law. It was a Democratic Congress. They passed a law reinstating the fairness doctrine, and then President Reagan vetoed it, and they couldn't override his veto. And then talk radio exploded after that through the late 80s and 90s. Rush Limbaugh came on the scene, and Christian talk radio exploded as well. And today we have literally thousands of stations, and this is what the left fears, that these stations are getting the word out that the mainstream media will not allow in newspapers and on broadcasts. And I can tell you that, being a former journalist myself. I was an editor at several newspapers, including the Los Angeles Times. I was a news editor there for 7 years, and the newsroom was uniformly liberal. You could count conservatives on one hand, and they were hounded by everybody else in the newsroom. And you could see the reflection in the coverage, and it got worse as the years went by because kids would be coming in from journalism schools totally marinated in their left-wing professors' political views, and they didn't even know how to write a balanced story anymore. I mean, we had interns there that would give me just activist screeds and figure it was good journalism. And I just remember one young reporter coming to me with a story about some woman who was saying she wanted more welfare benefits, and went through the whole thing, and it made the welfare agency out to be bad guys. And And so I asked her, well, where's the father? Is he living with her? Is he in the picture at all? And she gave me a perfectly politically correct answer. She says, well, that's a bigoted question. It shouldn't matter anything about the father. Why do you care about the father? Are you bigoted against single-parent families? I said, no, I just think it's relevant to the story. It's all about the family. Where's the dad? I mean, is this... and that's the kind of thing I ran into over and over again.
We know that the FCC is also looking at regulation on the Internet. Any thoughts on that issue?
I fear it. And Robert McDowell, an FCC commissioner, has written extensively about the threat of the FCC getting involved with Internet regulation. The Internet is a huge success. There's been more innovation there than anywhere else. It's taken off. It's revolutionizing science and medicine and communications and everything. The downside is the explosion in pornography. That's the thing that the left doesn't want to control at all because it's part of their agenda. It undermines the family and churches, and therefore it helps grow government to pick up the pieces. But in terms of ideas, the left fears the Internet. It's a way to get ideas out that you can't get anywhere else, and so they want to get their hands on it. Governments are greedy for power. They're often portrayed as altruistic and always in the public interest, but people in government agencies are no different from anyone else. They have the same need for power, for prestige, for bigger staffs, and so government grows disproportionately. It grows exponentially as it fails, because failure is really success in government terms. If you mess up, you need a bigger budget and more staff. You do that in a private sector, you lose your business or you get fired.
Now, the question then is really big, Bob. What can we do in regard to these FCC-related issues? What action steps can people take in fighting some of the ideals that are coming through the diversity czar, Mr. Lloyd?
Well, I think that they can keep up with the issue just by going to alternative media, making sure they're aware of it, and then participating in calls to Capitol Hill if there's a bill that would bring this about. There was a bill to bring about the Fairness Doctrine. Well, they hadn't actually introduced it. A couple Democratic congressmen talked about it, and there was such a reaction. People called Capitol Hill, and they said, we don't want this. And they backed off. They realized it would be highly unpopular. So people have to keep tabs on this and then just make a phone call. Could also do things like write letters to your local paper if the issue comes up. You don't have to be an expert on it. You can just provide a couple points just to make people think about this more.
I know just a few days ago, the National Religious Broadcasters actually contacted the FCC saying, listen, Internet regulation belongs to Congress, does not belong under your jurisdiction here, and other things going on behind the scenes, the local Freedom Broadcast Act and other things that are being purported there. I'd like to talk to, I know there are numerous personnel that you have in your Radical Rulers book, and I'd just like to touch on another case here in which we saw an appointment made over the 4th of July holiday of one known as Dr. Donald Berwick, tapped to be the, giving this leadership position, running the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. Some troubling aspects regarding him as well.
Oh, my goodness, this man's a hardcore socialist. He's praised Britain's socialized medicine. He called Fidel Castro's system in Cuba a miracle, quote-unquote, and he said things like, quote, excellent health care is by definition redistributional. He's warned of the darkness of private enterprise, and he said he loves Britain's socialized national health service. This is the man that Obama put in a recess appointment. He didn't bother having him vetted by the Senate because I think his record would have come out. It would have been very embarrassing. But he's in charge of Medicare and Medicaid services. That's $800 billion to manage. And here we have a guy who wants to have the government make all the decisions, and as they do in Cuba. And by the way, that Cuban system, we keep hearing about it from liberals who say, isn't it great, it's universal, but it's a two-tiered system. with party leaders and good Communist Party apparatchiks getting the best care at what are in practice private clinics, while the average Cuban goes to filthy hospitals with subpar care and not enough medicines and so forth. The one thing they've done is cut the infant mortality rate, and leftists around the world like to point to that and say, see, it's a superior system to the United States. That's only one statistic. It isn't that different from ours, and we have the best medical care in the world, at least up till now.
CNSnews.com ran a story yesterday on Mr. Berwick, and they quoted him, and you alluded to this. He was talking about the 60th anniversary of the Britain's single-payer healthcare system, and he said, quote, "Any healthcare funding plan that is just, equitable, civilized, and humane must redistribute wealth from the richer among us to the poor and less fortunate."
Yeah, there's your spreading the wealth around. Benefits everybody, like Obama said to Joe the plumber. This is a socialistic outlook. Mm-hmm. It sees government as a giant mechanism for extracting money from one class of people, in this case the working class, to another class of people, and that would be the recipient class. And we're getting to the point in this country where 49% of the people don't pay any federal income tax at all, and so the other 51% have to support them. And you get to a certain point where it pays more not to work. You're taking incentive out of the economy, and this is a dangerous time to be doing that because a lot of people are out of work. 10% unemployment rate. And the private employers are not hiring now because they're afraid of what the Obama administration and Congress is going to do next. They're making employees liabilities. And so they're waiting for better days. And even if Obama throws another $1 trillion in stimulus funding, you can create only so many make-work government jobs that don't actually create wealth.
Recently, we dealt with this issue of the electronic health records that is supposed to be in place here in the next couple of years. And the health records czar, Dr. David Blumenthal, and we talked about with the news that came out just recently with Kathleen Sebelius ordering what has to be part of these records, including the body mass index, how much body fat everybody has. Well, lo and behold, the story carried yesterday also on CNSnews.com is saying, well, HIV status and abortions don't need to be included on this electronic health care record. I know there's some real concerns with Mr. Blumenthal as well.
Well, I think he just voiced the most pressing, which is that they're going to make this reflect their support groups. And, of course, this administration is heavily pro-homosexual, so I'm not surprised that they'd leave HIV out of this because they'd be pressured to do so. But this idea that they're going to keep a record of everybody's body mass, I guess this is in keeping with Michelle Obama's crusade against obesity. Yeah. Which, on the surface, that's not a bad thing. Obesity is an unhealthful condition. It hurts people. It increases medical costs. But to cure it, having everybody report their body mass index is overkill.
We're going to open our phone lines where you can speak firsthand with our guest today, Robert Knight. Our telephone number here, 800-733-9829. A question, a comment about the issues talked about today, 800-733-9829. Get on board right now, 800-733-9829. We'll be right back.
Did you know that while in flight, the heart of a sparrow can beat up to 760 times per minute? Or that a baby blue whale grows at a rate of 7.28 pounds an hour while it's nursing, a grand total of 17 tons by the end of the nursing stage? Did you know that a glowworm has a light output efficiency of 100% compared to only 4% for our incandescent bulbs? These are some of the amazing facts presented in the book If Animals Could Talk by Dr. Werner Gitt. This book presents the unique design features of some of God's wonderful creation. You'll learn about the platypus, the dragonfly, the earthworm, and several other creatures that will enable both young and old to appreciate God's wonderful design. To obtain your copy of If Animals Could Talk, send a donation of $12 or more to VCY America, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. To donate by phone, call 1-800-729-9829. 1-800-729-9829.